Hi, I'm James, and in today's video we're going to be looking at the clutch fork pin in the transmission of my Spitfire. Okay, here we go. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is take out the clutch fork so I can see what the damage is with this hole. The clutch bearing feels good. Doesn't really look that old. That pin, however, needs a bit of a clean. Very loose. Here I start working on removing the weld material that's blocking the pivot pin hole. I tried a number of different punches but ended up using a drill bit for concrete. The length and the chiseled tip was perfect for the job. I now start to work on just cleaning all the gunk out of the pivot pin hole. Keelan, if you're watching, I think this is what was missing from yours. A couple of bushes. Here I'm just taking the bushes out to give them a complete clean so that everything's all ready for the new pin to go back into the hole. One came out easily, but the other one needed a bit of persuading with a punch and a screwdriver. These are brass bushes that have a bevel on one end. The bevel sits on the inner side of the holes and the clutch fork rests against them. So they act as bushes for both the pivot pin and the clutch fork itself. Okay, so I have this new pin. It's considerably longer than the other one. I just put that in there. That's all the way down and oops, sits on the sits on the bush, so that's not going to come out. It comes with this tolerance ring. Let's see what the deal is with this. So I don't see anything in here, and this fits tightly. This does that fit on the outside there. Drops in there. Comes out the bottom. Isn't exactly held in there by anything. It's not really tight. Is this meant to crush in here? It seems to be a very tight fit if it is. But in saying that, there is a lip in there. I'm going to do some research and check that. So what I think happens is this goes in here, it gets pressed in, and then that makes this a very tight fit. And the circlip on the top also stops it falling through the bushes. So I'll just see if I can find some instructions on that. Okay, so there's not much information out there. I'm just going to go with assuming I'm right. So I start off here by fitting the tolerance ring into the clutch fork. It's quite a tight fit, and the way the tolerance ring is designed, it's essentially a piece of metal wrapped round and butted against itself. So I eventually figured out that I needed to offset that to get it to sit in the hole properly. Now I try to actually fit the pin into the clutch fork, but this first attempt didn't work out too well. What happened was the tolerance ring actually pushed through out the bottom of the clutch fork hole as I hammered the pin in. I also found that the clutch fork was a bit loose against the brass bushes, so I found a brass washer to fit in there and take up the gap. So I then had to take the pin back out and take everything apart again and reform the tolerance ring back into its original shape. By the way, if you want to see more of my trials and tribulations restoring my Spitfire, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Remember, it's free on YouTube. And if you feel like it, hit that like button so more people can get to see this video. Once I was happy with the shape of the tolerance ring again, I decided it was probably best to test putting the pin in through the tolerance ring with the fork outside the transmission so I could just see how it all went together. As the tolerance ring was so tight, I didn't see any issue with putting the pin in and pulling it out and putting it back in again. It wasn't going to get overly loose at any stage. So now attempt 2 of trying to fit the pivot pin into place. However, once I had everything in place, I decided I wasn't really happy with how the fork was moving on the input shaft. So I decided to take it all back out again and clean everything up some more. Third time lucky, I got it back in this time and I was happy with how everything went. As I was putting the pin in, I was checking constantly to make sure that the tolerance ring wasn't coming out the bottom. As it happened, the reforming of the tolerance ring meant it had a bit of a flare on one end, which I sat against the lip in the hole in the clutch fork. If we have a look around here, we have the pin in place with the circlip visible and coming out the bottom. So that's a much longer pin than the original, so that should do a good job. See you next time.